Oh, because this is better. Now I'm in a
No, I
Halloween
didn't.
style
I
uplight.
didn't
So
ask you to
uplight,
do. I
yeah.
didn't ask you to put it on the table.
It's
I
very Boy
Where am I
George.
going? You've seen my
you.
setup. I just hold it like this.
On the
this whole
books.
time.
On the books.
There's a fucking pillow in the way.
You need a tan, that's what you need, right?
Yeah, I know. I need a fucking tan. My wife's been saying that for bloody years.
I could hear Indi twitching every time it went off.
Floating in space.
Floating in space with many priorities, but they must complete the tax return. So we're coming out of left field on this one. Having spoken to David Tuck before on this, the meteorite that wipes out the accounting infrastructure that supports most of what the accountants work on at the moment. And we've obviously seen in app news, there's been some accounting softwares in the past few weeks alone that have acquired very good tech-led businesses, GoProposal being listed as one, MailChimp as another. Arguably, the accounting industry, has it done enough? Has it moved forward enough to really support the future of the accounting infrastructure for tomorrow? Or is it still playing with what is quite a dated software stack, or where we should have been possibly 5 years ago? Are we doing enough to make sure that we're really accommodating the SMEs' problems for tomorrow, clients' problems for tomorrow, or are we still just playing on the outside of the problem? I'm going to throw it over to Ryan to start with, and I want you to be really bullish with this because I love the acquisitions that have been made, and I think that the tech is fantastic. I just don't know if we are really hitting the center of the problem, the heart of the problem here.
Are we pushing the boundaries? I think that's that's probably the biggest question. It's a tough one. The accounting profession is still antiquated. I don't think there's any denial about that. I mean, anyone that's followed or seen Stuart Hurst on LinkedIn would have seen the coined phrase of the accountant dinosaur. I don't think that is that is a distant past. I think we're still living in that. And the problem is when you develop new tech, you still have to have a customer base. So if you're developing something, you're either going to have to completely eradicate the whole accounting industry if you're going to pioneer that far, which someone could go out and do. But at the moment, it seems to be that slower model, win the accountants over, get them to bring their clients in. Where I see this potentially getting to a step change is where the main accounting software, so Xero, QuickBooks Online, Sage, start getting to a point where they've got such a big volume of clients now that they don't really need to go through the accounting industry, the accounting profession. They'll just go direct to market, and they'll compete so much against themselves. They'll either have to buy something that's pioneering to differentiate and then try and win clients off their competitors, or they'll have to develop something themselves. And I think actually by the time they've got to that size, they'll probably have to buy something something innovative. I don't know what you think, John.
I mean, I think innovation in the accounting industry is a challenging one. Yes, we've had a lot of stuff happening with cloud in the last 10 or so years, and that has brought with it a level of innovation. But I suppose the question is when you talk about innovation in the accounting space, you're talking about innovation in the way that we deliver a service. You're talking about innovation in terms of expanding the types of services that we offer, or are you talking about something else in terms of almost akin to being like a tech business and bringing developers in house to do things? I mean, there are certainly in the UK and in other places around the world, there are people that are innovating with service delivery, technology, all those things. There's people like Sharon Pocock, who's built a cloud-first accountancy practice up from the ground. She's focused on customer service, client service first, and brought in technology and ideas from outside the accounting space to really drive the growth that she's had. We've got Alistair Barlow that both Ryan and I know quite well, and who's come from a Big Four background, built a practice that effectively does consultancy services with compliance on the side, and does a huge amount of work around data, technology, visualization, and those kind of things.
What I'd say on that though, John, is that that's still based around the old architecture of the accounting profession. we can't talk about, what David sees as an outdated model, those innovations are still based on that outdated model of someone, you've got that person at the top that has all the information that you're going to. You've not got a platform that you can go to access. You can access insights in which you're kind of being matched with the person that's got the expertise. I think we're still a long way off that.
So the challenge is that being able to find information on Google or whatever is easy, isn't it? It's like the old adage of, if your car broke down tomorrow, would you know how to fix it? Well, I wouldn't. So I'd have to take it to someone who knows how to do it. Yes, I could probably sit by the side of the road and Google it, but then I wouldn't necessarily have the tools with me and everything else to be able to fix it there and then anyway. So the thing is that what anybody who has a level of skill and knowledge does is they bring their experience to bear. And David's quite right insofar as there are certain elements of what we do that are repeatable over and over and over again. But what's different is how we then deal with the clients, how we empathize with them, how we talk to them about specific scenarios that affect them very personally or affect their business very personally. And the way that you deliver that is person to person, whether that's over a video call, in a meeting, whatever. And to a degree, the underlying technology that you use is slightly irrelevant to that. The underlying technology just enables you to either service more clients or do things more efficiently. It's a bit like the step changes that we had from moving from pen and paper way back in the day to moving to computers, and now we're moving to cloud and things like AI and stuff. So is technology a problem? No. Could we be doing better? Could we be adopting more of it more quickly? Absolutely.
But who is in control of that technology adoption here? So is it you as the accountant feel that, okay, the control is there from your side, or is it that it's being led as well to some extent? And I only ask that because of the digitalization agendas that have happened have forced so many accountants to adopt, but it wasn't without its mandate.
I disagree with that, because I think, we've had MTD for VAT, making tax digital for VAT here in the UK, but actually you can still get away with just using Excel to file your VAT returns compliantly. That's old technology. Okay, Microsoft might have invested lots of money and effort into modernizing it and bringing it up to speed and making it competitive with Google, but that's still old technology. Nobody has been forced to use cloud. Businesses and accountants have adopted cloud because it suits their purposes.
It's ironic because this is probably the fastest the accounting industry's ever moved, and yet we're still asking, can it do more? But you've got the innovators, haven't you? They're the ones that start, people transitioning onto new things. They take the risk. They potentially, get the reward from that, although some of them won't. And then over time, that just becomes the norm. And then you'll have the laggards that are still in their old ways. But I think the key thing that we've seen now is that cloud has become the norm, especially with making tax digital. It's kind of forced that to be the norm. So what's next? And if we talk about this matchmaking process, you say about, okay, a good example, if your car breaks down, you look to Google to find a mechanic, but there are then those matchmaking tools that can help you find the right mechanic. You've got this for tradesmen, etc., where it guides you to maybe the specialist, but it's still based on how they've sold themselves. And it's always going to be a gut feel. It's going to be based on marketing. And I don't see us getting away from that. You've got the Zero Advisor Directive. You've got similar things with QuickBooks and Sage, which is trying to match make accountants and businesses. But that's really about how effective they are at marketing on that tool. I still think we're quite a way away from having an individual that's matched to a client because it's a very specific question and they're the expert. I think we're a long way away from that personally.
Yeah, and I have a big issue about this kind of expert in inverted commas sort of moniker that we throw around. I think when it comes to professional services in particular, because what we do is done as I say, face to face, personally with business owners, with businesses that they run and things, is that one person might think you're an expert in something when you know nothing. And we see this. You see this when clients move between practices. Is that they might have used an accountant for 40 plus years, trusted them implicitly, but then when you look at the advice that they've been given, it's been rubbish. But But as far as they're concerned, that person they were dealing with was the expert at the time, and it was only when they changed to a different firm of accountants, to a different person, that they then get to qualify whether that person is an expert in their opinion or not. And that's the big issue around it. It's, when you come to expertise in things like science and other places where people work and operate, there are structures there to qualify whether an expert truly is an expert, because you write papers that get published, for example, or you do something else that someone else checks your work. You don't have that in the accounting world. Yes, we've got regulators that will check the audit status and the quality of an accounting firm, but they're not checking that those people delivering it really know what they're doing. That's why we all have PI insurance, just in case we screw it up, because it covers our backsides. So this expert moniker that gets bashed around is great, but I don't think there are truly a lot of very unique experts in the accountancy market at the moment.
No, and surely when you become an expert, don't you just release a podcast? Isn't that how it works nowadays? But no, I completely agree. It's a hard thing to measure, because one, we're an incredibly complex tax and regulatory system that's constantly changing. We're in a software landscape that changes on a daily basis. Hence why we've got so much news nowadays that we bring to the podcast. So being an expert is only at that exact time. It changes like constantly. So by the time you've advertised yourself as an expert, if you've invested time in the advertising, you've taken time away from keeping yourself an expert. So yeah, I don't think that it's one of those panacea moments, or sorry, one of those perfect things you can never achieve, is that becoming the expert. There's always someone else that's challenging you in that position.
And I think the other thing about an expert is, if you're an expert, that means you've surely had lots of experience, been around for a long time, done lots of stuff, and then we kind of end up back in this kind of world of considering dinosaurs to be the experts. And where does that leave? Well, I'm not particularly young, but Ryan's a bit younger than I am. Where does that leave people like us? I mean, certainly when I was a trainee accountant, clearly coming into the space at that time, I knew very little, but I was eager to learn and everything else. But would you wanted me to sit in front of a 20 million turnover business and give them some tax advice on R&D tax credits if they'd existed back then? Bloody hell no, because I wouldn't have known anything about it. But I could have probably been sat down in front of a firm or in front of a business, and someone could say, well, John's from such and such accountants, and they would believe that I'm an expert. And you do get that when you're a trainee in a firm. If you go out to see clients, because you're from that firm, they just expect you know everything. They don't expect that you're 6 months into a training contract and totally green. And that's always the risk that you get with people in our space. Professional people are perceived at that moment in time by the people who are servicing, and you could be great, you could be terrible because you're missing deadlines and not performing, or you could be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I don't think there's a solution to this. Personally, I think the accounting profession has built up this structure because it works. We wouldn't be here if it didn't work, and it's going to be hard to change that. I think if you're trying to compare it to something as like a Deliveroo, which is taking one thing from one place to another, that's a simple solution, a simple problem that you're bringing a good solution to. If you're dealing with something very complex, subjective, there are lots of times that you will get things wrong no matter how much you're taught. And the whole point of the accounting profession is to build a structure that picks up those errors, so that as people get experience for it, actually what goes out the door has already been through quite a substantial review process to make sure it's a very good service that's being delivered. Trying to break that to deliver something else brings with it an awful lot of risk, and I'm not sure I'd be comfortable being a pioneer in that area.
I think the other thing, just to add to that, the one thing that I think a lot of accountants are at risk of making the mistake of doing is that there is an area where you leave the bounds of your comfort zone in terms of your area of experience and expertise, and you try to be all things to all people, and so I think you've got to be very cautious about trying to be able to do everything for a client, because we're in a business where we're a service business and we don't like to say no to our clients. And equally, because we are a knowledge business, we also don't like to say we don't know. You see this throughout the industry, whether it's from trainees to experienced practitioners, who will do something a bit rash and say, yeah, we can do that for you, and then quite quickly realize that actually they're not up to it, but we'll plow on. And you only have to open the pages of, like, the Institute magazines and the ACCA magazines. So that's pretty much what most of the disciplinary things are about, is where an accountant's overstretched themselves and provided some form of advice that wasn't in their realms of expertise, probably wasn't in the realms of their practice expertise, but didn't want to pass it on to somebody else for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think that's probably all we've got on this topic.